the good old days of CPS 121 when you had Java. Right after you learned if statements, you learned loops, and then we hit chapter 5, which was methods. Well, we're one chapter different, which is okay. And we're starting chapter 6 today. And if I had to give it a name, I would say it's just like what you did in 121 with methods. Instead, these guys are called functions. Sometimes you'll hear them called procedures. Back, I think, in the Pascal days, they were called procedures. Okay, functions, methods, they all kind of work the same. The idea behind a function is takes a big problem, breaks it down into smaller, more manageable pieces, little blocks of code that were relevant. They did a calculation. They did the displaying of the output. And this comes from the idea of something called top-down design. And in the old days in 121, I'd spend time on this, but I don't anymore. I hit it here in 161. But a top-down design is something where we divide and conquer. So in it, my main is saying, hey, go do this. Hey, go do that. It's calling methods, or now in our case, it's calling functions to go take the work and break it up. And eventually we're going to get into a group project or two where we're going to say, you go write this function, you go write that function, you go write this function, and we're going to put them all together in one program. Okay, it's the idea of this divide and conquer, break it up. The name that usually comes with this top-down design, it's also referred to as a hierarchy chart. This goes back to algorithm writing. I don't, in our class, we're now writing pseudocode for our algorithms. A hierarchy chart was another way to do an algorithm. Calculate pay. I need to do the input. I need to do the processing. I need to do the output. The input, display explanation of what's going on. Input, ask the user for a number. Input, check to make sure it's a valid number. So we take the big ideas and we keep breaking them down and breaking them down into our smaller blocks of code. Like in Java, C++, we have two types of functions, a void and a value returning. Still don't like the idea of one value returning, but we're going to be able to make some changes to that down the road. But for now, we have the ever popular value returning. Doing the code listings, you should have learned about something called a prototype. And the prototype is a way to say, these are the functions that I'm going to define after the main. Okay? Instead of putting all that blah, blah, blah in the main, we're going to say, by use of a prototype, what's coming up. We do the main, and then we have the functions afterwards. So when you were working in the book, one of the things you did was code listing 6.5. And in code listing 6.5, I don't know if you can remember, you don't have to pull it up, but just remembering off the top of your head, we had a prototype called first and a prototype called second. We had our main, we call first, we call second. It's a void, the name of the function, and the parameter list. In this case, there's nothing in there for the parameter list. What's another name for parameter list?
Arguments.
Well, when I call them in here, these would be the arguments. When they fly over and come down into the definition, they land in the parameter list. Okay, the arguments in the main land in the parameter list. But another name for a parameter list is
Signature.
Yeah, it's signature. Okay, and that's a term you'll start to hear as we go down the road. It's signature. The signature is another name for the parameter list. The parameter list is the one in the function heading that has the data types and variable names to be used. Okay, good. So we took a look at prototypes. Again, there was the question, the difference between the arguments and parameter lists. Here, I'm calling the method display value 10. That is in fact the argument. And here is the actual function name with the parameter list, int num. Right now, everything we do is we pass by value. The 10 flies through the air and lands in here. Whatever I call it with, whatever my argument is, it flies through the air and lands, but it doesn't change back here. Only the value gets passed. And we took a look at that in one of the code listings, 6.8.
Professor, I have a question.
Yes, excellent,
So
thank you.
so I was skimming through the book when
Yep.
we were doing these code listings, and it says you don't have to declare the variable within the parameter list. It'll auto assign to the first parameter, correct?
So when I say int num, if there was a num2 and it was also an integer, are you saying I could do int num comma num2?
Yes.
Okay, that would be new to me. I didn't think that worked. That's just a C++ thing because I know it doesn't work in Java. I'm always safe. I put it in, but if it doesn't need it, cool.
But it was also not naming the actual variable within the parameter list. Like they would just write the code.
Yeah, like
I think that's just for the prototype.
for like function prototypes, they just like do like blah blah blah, and then in the parameter list int instead of int.
Right. I
whatever.
don't put
Exactly.
any names. I just say I'm going to be passing an int. Right. Yep. Okay. Still looking at some examples. We understand the idea of a void. We understand returning a value. Here's my prototype. Int sum. I just put in the int. I just put in the int. That's sort of what we were just talking about a moment ago. I come down to my heading of my function. I have my return type. I have my function name. I have my parameter list. I'm going to return the sum of the two. What's missing here that we had in Java?
Public
Yeah, yep,
or private.
yeah, public or private. Yeah, we had some different things going on in front of here that we don't now. Slight difference between Java and C++. Questions? Okay, so I think you got the idea. I'm going to have you write in groups, just 2 programs today. To get you testing yourself with functions. The first one is in the book. It's on page 373. Oh, it's a piece of cake. Looks kind of familiar. You know, we're cracking our knuckles. You just typed in code listings, but you didn't really have to do it on your own. Now it's a practice of doing it on your own. I'm looking at number 2. Number 2, rectangle program. Not so bad. I want to have 4 functions. One that gets the length, one that gets the width, one that gets the area, and then one that just displays everything. So that's going to be the first program that you're going to do. Not too bad. And again, if I look down here at the bottom, I'm seeing 4 prototypes. Start there, right there. I'm seeing 4 prototypes. So this is what your main is going to be. I'm going to get the length, store it in a value. I'm going to get the width and store it. I'm going to pass those 2 in to get area and get a return of what the area would be. Then I'm going to display them. So I have no parameters. I have return types where I'm returning a single value. I have parameters in my list, and I have a void one. So quickly jot that down. That's the first program you're going to write when you're in your groups. Double get length, double get width, double get area, passing in 2 values. So there's your 4 prototypes. The second program I want you to write, I want you to write the game of red, black. Red, black. So the first thing I want you to do is display some instructions. You need to understand what red, black is going to do. You're going to pick a color, red or black. The computer is randomly going to generate a color, red or black. If it matches, you win. If it doesn't match, you lose. It's almost like flipping a coin. Now, I'm thinking, all right, if the computer's picking, I'm going to use a random number generator. And I'm thinking, I'll generate 2. That'll give me the number 0 or 1. And I'm already designated, red is 0, 1 is black. I think that's kind of easy. Then I'm going to have the user enter. So down here, I'm going to have the user guess. Now, do you want them to guess R or B? Do you want them to use 0 for red, 1 for black? That would make it an easier check. But the game is, if you guess the same as the computer, you win. Otherwise, the computer wins. All right. So what do we got? This is the second program. All right. Here's your first program. Here's the second. I want the user's guess. I put char, but that could be an int. However you want to designate this. Computer's guess. It's guessing a 0 or a 1. I don't know if you want to convert it to chars or leave it as 0 or 1s. That's up to you. But whatever these two types are, will be the parameter list here. Compare to see who wins. I don't know how you want to know who wins. Is 0 the person and 1's the computer? So some things to work out, and then display the results. Now, if you have time, because this one should go pretty quick. This one, there's some discussion you'll have to do in your groups to get there. If you have time, play to 10. Who's the first one to win 10 games? You or the computer? So after it goes through, if you win, you get 1. If the computer wins, they get 1. And see if you can run this to see who's the first one to 10. What do you think about that? Questions? Czar is here, correct? And Julie, did Julie ever make it?
Sorry for being late.
Oh no, that's okay. I'm glad you're here and I didn't mark you absent. Julie did not make it today. Okay. Groups. We have 23. I'm going to make 6 groups just because it makes it easier for me to get around to your groups. Someone in the group share the screen, be the secretary. Everybody else gets to tell them what to do. Questions, comments? Call me if you need me. Otherwise, I'll be around. Hi, Julie. Guess you want to go to a breakout room. I can't hear you. Your poor puppy can't see.
Oh, because I didn't have time this morning to do his hair and hair
Oh.
ribbon.
Oh,
Oh dear, life is hard for him.
I'm sure. All right, I'm going to send you in with group 6. They'll explain what's going on, okay?
Okay, thanks.